Okay guys, so now we'll have a question and answer in just a few moments, but first of all, I think Conan would like to make some remarks, thanks to the society.
We'll start with remarks and then Q&A. What do you say? Thank you. I'm overjoyed to be made an honorary patron of your esteemed university's Philosophical Society. When I received the letter inviting me to speak here today, I was humbled to be joining the ranks of such legendary speakers as Winston Churchill, James Joyce, and Alexis de Tocqueville. After a lifetime of debasing myself in the low comedic arts, your stunning invitation was instant validation. I had finally made it. That wasn't supposed to be funny. Without hesitation, I rearranged my busy television schedule, announced the glorious news to family and friends, booked a flight, and made the rigorous mental preparations necessary to address an assemblage of one of the world's greatest universities' most serious and enlightened young minds. Then, just days ago, I checked out your Tumblr and Facebook pages. Jesus Christ! What the hell is wrong with you people? Lust, depravity, drunkenness, a naked slave auction. Is that even legal? A photo of one woman spanking another in the 2010 maiden finals. Men wearing bras, women not wearing bras. I was sitting at home on my computer watching The Fall of Rome. Stunned, I immediately emailed your president, Lorcan Clark, and asked, "Is there any way I can come sooner? Can I stay? How much would I fetch as a slave? For the love of God, I want to party with you people." By the way, I took a quick peek at Lorcan's Facebook page and found it very illuminating. The official motto of your society's president is to work hard 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 2 weeks a year. That is your chosen leader. So I stand before you, a 49-year-old man who's been studying the Facebook pages of 20-year-old men and women, downloading some of the photos and folding them into my wallet. That's right, today you're honoring a pervert. I'm not sure I deserve to join the ranks of your greatest speakers, though to be honest, I've noticed you have a wide range of guests in your history. For example, you have invited Desmond Tutu and also Tommy Hilfiger. So it's clear that there are two ways to join this august body. Either lead a 30-year crusade to dismantle the cancerous scourge of apartheid, or make a really nifty poplin shirt. But let's make no mistake, it's an honor to be asked, and I was delighted by the wide variety of activities you arranged for me here at Trinity. 1445, Mr. O'Brien given a tour of the historic campus, dating from 1592, ending with visit to Old Library Long Room and Book of Kells. 1530, brief visit to Goldsmith Hall, followed by secondary viewing of Book of Kells. 1600, quick peek at Book of Kells. 1630, light lunch with society officers, then a quick dash down to Book of Kells to make sure it's still there. 1700 award ceremony, the singing of the Book of Kells song, followed by annual jig around Book of Kells. Enough with the Book of Kells. You're all coasting on a 1,200-year-old book. Get over it. If it truly is that great a book, there would have been a sequel by now. You see, you, dear members of the Phil, have accomplished something great in your own right. You have built an ingenious trap. The Irish are known throughout the world for their innate ability to resent anyone who puts on airs and tries to stand above the rest. So what do? You invite unsuspecting, egotistical celebrities, like me, to come here, to Dublin, the world capital of Irish begrudgery, and you make us put on a tuxedo, stand before you, and lecture you on our personal philosophy. Also, you can sit there and say to one another, the moment I rise to speak, look at it! Who the hell does he think he is? no Tommy Hilfiger. And coming here today also affords me the rare chance to visit my mother country, a place where I was genetically engineered to live. Every cell in my body thanks you for returning me to this cloudy land. I live in Los Angeles now, and an Irishman in Los Angeles is like a penguin at the Lebanon Zoo. I don't thrive there. Everything here speaks to my centuries-old lineage. Here in Dublin, you have the Brazen Head Pub, which was founded in 1198. In Los Angeles, our oldest establishment is the Good Vibrations Tanning Shack, which, according to the plaque outside, opened in 1978. No, here in Dublin, I can be my guilt-ridden, angry, anxious, passive-aggressive, self-loathing, overly talkative, mother-obsessed self. Now, I'm sure many of you here don't consider me properly Irish. You're accustomed to hordes of people just off the plane claiming to be your Celtic brethren. Italians, Koreans, Norwegians, West Caribbean guys, all named Sean, slapping you on the back and saying, "It's good to be home." It's good to be home. But I'm different. You see, even though my people came to this country at the time of the American Civil War, I have still managed to remain, or came to this, left this country at the time of the American Civil War, I have still managed to remain 100% Irish. My family accomplished this by leaving Dungarvan, County Waterford, in the 1850s and emigrating to a very small area of central Massachusetts, where they then proceeded to marry each other for 106 years. I'm not kidding. The names Walsh and Powers each separately show up 4 different times in my family tree. And as a result, I am dangerously inbred. In fact, after a century and a half in America, I was the first member of my family to go crazy and break a racial taboo. That's right, I married a Scotch-Irish Episcopalian. I got jungle fever. Yes, I'm a true son of this country, and it's joyous to be here, but I must tell you, my first trip to Ireland was quite different. I came here back in June of 1997 with the plan of driving west to east across your entire country. I rented a little green Mercedes, and starting at the Ring of Kerry, drove across the idyllic countryside towards Dublin. About a third of the way here, I came to a quaint little cottage on a lonely road with a single gas pump outside. I pulled over, the sweetest little old lady with a soft brogue approached my car, opened the gas lid, and started filling my tank. We talked for 20 minutes about our families, and just as I was about to leave, she hugged me and said she would go to Mass that night and say a rosary in my name. I drove away with tears in my eyes, thrilled to reconnect with the pure, kind essence of my people. And then, 3 miles down the country road, my car ground to a halt. She had filled my diesel engine with unleaded gas. It cost me 400 pounds to get the car towed and repaired. I swore then and there I would find that old bitch and that's why I came back. Let's go find her. Claire. But enough of this nonsense. You brought me here for a purpose, and it certainly wasn't to listen to my family history or hear me list the old women, and there are several, that I'd like to kill. When speaking to a philosophical society, it's inevitable that one eventually state their own philosophy. And trust me, I promise that as soon as I get one, I'll email it to you immediately. It will be an easily accessible PDF, and you should get it any time in the next 8 years. You see, the truth is, I've devoted my life to comedy, and my comedic philosophy is not to have one. As a comic, I rigidly refuse to stand for anything. If a critic or a fan ever believes they've detected a message in my silliness, then I have failed. My comedic heroes are not satirists or social critics. They're simply people who make me laugh in a way that feels timeless and uniquely human. I love Peter Sellers' Inspector Clouseau, the Marx Brothers, Woody Allen, the assorted characters from Warner Brothers cartoons, Steve Coogan, and the cat on YouTube who plays the keyboards. For 27 years working on Saturday Night Live, The Simpsons, and late night television, the only quality that defines my work is that it's mostly absurd, abstract, and meaningless. Was this a choice? Absolutely not. In fact, if there's anything that connects me to you after 150 years, aside from a tendency to bruise easily and blame others for my problems, it's that I have an Irish brain. It refuses to follow the rules. It bends language and distorts reality. Comedy, in its essence, is about breaking rules, and as a people, the Irish cannot and will not be told what to do. And don't get me wrong, we are not defiant in a courageous way. We wait until our captors are halfway out the door, then we mumble a cruel taunt out the side of our mouth. I once read a theory that James Joyce and other Irish writers of his time bent the English language as a form of rebellion against their British oppressors. When I mentioned this to my father, he laughed and said, no, they did it because they couldn't help it. In a similar vein, most everything I've done creatively as an adult was not voluntary or brave. At The Simpsons, creator Matt Groening's biggest rule was that no writer could create a situation that was impossible. He wanted Springfield to be a real place, and with the exception of the Halloween episodes, he wanted the characters to adhere somewhat to a world that an actual family could occupy. Of course, the minute I heard this rule, I ran straight to my office at the Fox Studios and wrote an episode where Leonard Nimoy beams out at the end, disappearing from the screen, and the people of Springfield en masse ride an escalator up into the sky, leading nowhere. I probably wrote that more to annoy and confuse than entertain, but I know that somewhere from beyond the grave, my ancestors, the Walshes, Powers, O'Briens, Gavins, and Reardons, would understand. So as you can see, I don't have much in the way of hard philosophical truths. If you put a gun to my head, I'll tell you that the greatest food in the world is thin crust pizza. Any dog you own should be big enough to knock you down. No one alive looks good in Lycra cycling shorts. Never loan money to the Greek government. Wait for the iPhone 11. It will be the best one. And if you go to Disneyland, pretend to be disabled and request a wheelchair. They have to give it to you, and you go right to the head of every line. Trust me. I look forward to your questions, accusations, any gifts, and the occasional hug if you're a woman or a slender, effeminate man. But I will leave you with this. On my last Tonight Show over 2 years ago, amidst a lot of controversy and heated name-calling, I told my viewers that in my experience, if you work hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. What I didn't mention is that if you work hard and you're an incredible asshole, you'll make a ton of money on Wall Street. I didn't think Americans could handle the whole truth, but I feel you, my Irish brothers and sisters, most certainly can. So thank you again for this tremendous honor, and now, I see it's time for my honorary slave auction in front of course, the Book of Kells.
Is there anyone in the audience who has a question for Conan?
Yeah, Conan, will you sign my Conan t-shirt? It's from NBC, I hope that's okay.
No. Yes, I'll sign you. Where are you from?
I'm from Dublin.
You're from Dublin? What'd you say it like that? From Dublin, be proud! Yeah. All right, I'll sign that for you.
Maybe on the back.
What's your name? What's that? Keith. Even you say that. Keith. It's the only name they have. What's that?
It's not a very rock and roll name.
It served them very well. But anyway, you should be proud of your name. I wish I were. Yes! Anyone else? Let's get this thing going. You! How dare you? This should get contentious. And come on, let's go!
Mr. O'Brien!
You son of a bitch! This is the part they'll take for the evening news.
I'm so translucent I can see the paint behind you through you.
Nice!
I am currently studying a Master's of Broadcast Production and Television and Radio opportunities.
Let's review our philosophical questions so far. Could you sign my t-shirt? Can I have a job? I like this place. Well, there's a lot to talk about. You know, if I can help you, I will, obviously. But my good friend, and he's going to hate me for pointing him out right now, he's the producer of the show and my head writer. He's also my lawyer, Mike Sweeney. You'll be sure to talk to him, all of you who want a job. Yes, you know, there are a lot of people also, obviously I meet people all the time that would like to work in television. They ask me, how do I do that? And I always give them the same advice, which is go to where they're doing the thing that you want to do and find any way to be there. And then don't have airs or ideas about what you're performing, what you're doing in that role. Just get to that place. I meet so many American kids that say, I want to work in television. And then they kind of want to step in as a writer or a producer. And when I tell them that my first gig in television was getting coffee for Estelle Getty from the Golden Girls, which is true, it was not an easy road in, and I had it easier than most, but go to the place that they're making the stuff that you want to make, and if that's television, find a way to get there, be there, and then try and find a way to get coffee for somebody, get them a donut, so that you can absorb how it works. That's the way most people have done it. Yeah. Next. Yes.
Hey, I'm Peter. Sorry, I'm American.
Get out! We're sick of your kind.
And it's a doxire to be the. Yeah. Well, I had a question. So recently, you've been doing more stuff with like branching out to like the gaming community with like Halo 4 and Skyrim and stuff. So what really inspired you to go into that? Because there are a lot of, I mean, I know that Jimmy Fallon does a bit of that, but a lot of people don't, you know, a lot of comedians especially, it's kind of off limits for them.
Well, for me, a lot of things have been accidental the last 2 years. I don't know who's familiar with my situation, but when I got into this big fight with NBC and we parted company, there was really no place for me to go initially, and I didn't know what was going to happen to my career. TBS, Turner Broadcasting, offered me a way in, but in the meantime, what had happened is that I've been completely saved by people online. This whole movement rose up of young people, much like yourselves, who got on Twitter, who got on Facebook. They said what had happened to me wasn't right. They led this big, huge movement, which then turned into Team Coco, which turned into a tour, which turned into a documentary. It had this whole momentum. And so I just kept going with that same energy.
Yeah.
And I have a really good digital team. They actually just won an Emmy back in the States. And they are fantastic. Frankly, I don't know what they're talking about half the time. I'm not of that generation, but I'm learning it's sink or swim. Learn this stuff or become irrelevant. There's a whole generation, my assistant is 29, she doesn't watch television. Now, what's happening right now in our country is she doesn't watch television, she looks at her computer. And she looks, and I don't know what people do here, but so much of it now is on the internet. That's how people see little bits and pieces of comedy. They watch YouTube. They see things that way. Whereas there's another generation that's 45 and up that never gets on their computer and just watches TV. And there's no center. So it's trying to find out what's the center. I do a TV show, but through my digital work, I'm connecting to a whole bunch of people who I would, a few years ago I thought, well, maybe they're too young to really like what I'm doing. But if I get a first crack at one of the games that is being released, Resident Evil or something like that, and they get to screw around with it, they're interested, and then my comedy is relevant there. So it works. So it's kind of out of necessity / desperation, don't lie.
And I just wanted to say that your voice over for Halo 4 is absolutely hilarious.
I haven't tried it. I wouldn't know. If I tried to work Halo 4, I'd explode. You know?
Well, it's not. I saw the video.
Oh, good.
On Reddit.
Oh, that. Yeah, no, it's in there. It's actually like an Easter egg kind of thing where you can find it if you actually play the game. That's a good use of your time.
Yeah.
It's really why the world's falling apart. Yes, you in the back.
One of the Simpsons writers on Reddit mentioned that on your first day writing for The Simpsons, a bird flew through your
true story.
window and died. So I was just wondering.
Well, you know, I have, many people say it's marriage quality, magical thinking. If something happens, I think it's a sign that it means something. I was very nervous to go to The Simpsons. This is when the show was very young, and it was starting out, and I was very intimidated, and I had not written in that format before. I had written sketches. I had written, for Saturday Night Live, I had written short form, and then they were saying, would you write, as hard as it is to believe, The Simpsons to me was, an episode was monolithic. It's 3 acts, and I hadn't written that form before, but I got the gig. I had a good reputation. They invited me there. I showed up for the first day of work, and there was an empty office, and they said, you can have that office. So I went in. It was on the 2nd level at the Fox Studios. If you can imagine, the studios were laid out. They were built in the 30s, really crappy buildings. Most people say to me, oh, writing for The Simpsons, that must have been the greatest thing ever. And they glamorize it. And the rooms were awful. Like, literally, a terrible, rundown building. And we would eat fried food, and we would sit all day on crappy furniture that someone had found. Seriously. And we would sit there and with these great writers, and this is back before they outlawed smoking. So John Swartzwelder used to fill the rooms with smoke. And we'd sit there, all getting cancer, and sit on the furniture. I show up my first day, they say, this is your office. They show it to me. I said, that looks great. I leave to get a cup of coffee. I come back, and there had been a weird noise just beforehand. And I walk into my office, and the window was broken. There was a little window above the door, and it was broken right in the center. And a black bird had flown in, hit the glass, rammed against the wall, broken its neck, and died. Open-winged on the floor. And I walked in, and I was just staring at the dead bird. This is my first day in my office. And George Meyer, probably the greatest Simpsons writer of all time, walks by, and he went, bad sign. If you saw that in a movie, you'd say, that's terrible. But it happened. It was real. Yep. Yes?
Marge vs. Monroe is actually my favourite episode of The Simpsons. So I was wondering if you'd ever consider going back to writing for them again, and also like what do you think of the standard of The Simpsons as it stands?
You know, I don't. I only know. I haven't. The second question, the second part of the question, I'll answer first because I don't know the show nearly as well, and I get disappointed Simpsons fans all over the world that corner me and they say, "Oh, it's Conan O'Brien. Conan, tell me." You know. Episode 444. Marge says the following. What this meant by, and I don't know what they're talking about because I've grown up and had kids and lived a life and gotten to another profession, so I wasn't up late, or up at all watching The Simpsons, or I was usually working at that time. So I am now probably the least qualified to talk about The Simpsons today or what's happened. I've seen individual episodes that I thought were absolutely brilliant and as good as anything that we did in our day. And as far as going back, no. I loved it, but it was a hard job, and the whole time I was there, I was trying to get to, or I was dreaming about being able to get in front of people, which is what I love to do. And as a writer, I was clearly a frustrated performer. I liked writing, and I think I was pretty good at it, but I was constantly getting up and acting out my episodes in front of the writers. I thought that's how it was done, and they would just stare at me, dumbfounded. I would do all the voices. When I was pitching a line, and they hadn't seen that before. And it was clear eventually if I didn't get out of there, my head was going to explode. So as much as I loved it, as much as I'm proud of that work, I think my time there is done. Yes?
Conan, what's the weirdest or creepiest thing a fan has ever done or said to you?
Who's this guy here? You sure? Wow. I don't know, there's been a lot of weird things over the years. A while ago, it was sort of a big story in America for 30 seconds, but there was an Irish Catholic priest who became obsessed with me. And kind of said he wanted to kill me, but I think, I don't know, it was very strange, and then he would get loose, and I would get these calls, and they would send the police to my parents' house in Brookline. And truth is, my mother loved it. She loved the detention. She loved the policeman coming. She was frustrated when the whole thing ended. I remember her just calling me all the time, "Conan, there's police here. I hope you're safe." And I'd say, "Mom, it's one priest, and he's fine, and he's just a little ill, and they'll catch him, and I'm fine." And "I don't think so. I've asked for more police over here." And I'd call, a few hours later, "We're all having cookies." It's marvelous. So that was strange. We've had some fans that have taken it to the extreme where it gets quite intense on the road. We had people that followed the tour, and it got quite intense because they saw too much in the show, or there was a cult of personality that was building up, and you think, in a good way, I'm glad that they like the show. In a slightly less good way, I know what it's like to be Stalin. There were people who were so into it in the States that I felt like I could tell them to go and murder on my account. They would. So I did. I'm a murderer. But yeah, it's too hard. If you think of something, Mike, there's just been so many crazy, intense things. There are people a guy made a Conan out of Legos that's made of like 600,000 Legos. And you honestly, it's like 9 feet tall, and it's good. It's more lifelike than I am, and it's frightening. And then you get a little put off by it, because you like it, but then you think that's a strange level of devotion. Which,
I just want to say you're still all
Thank you. He means it too. Yes. Yes. Good. How are you? And they chatted for 40 minutes. Yeah. Will Ferrell is maybe one of the best, because I like people that there's no need to really prepare too much, but you know that they'll be completely fearless. Like, if they jump over the bridge, I'll jump over the bridge. And my favorite thing about Will Ferrell is his completely dead eyes. I've always said you have the eyes. In Jaws, there's that line where Brody is talking about the shark, and he says, "It's got dead eyes. It's got a doll's eyes." Will Ferrell, he has completely, when you're doing something funny with him, his eyes just go dead in this hilarious way where he's able to get away with anything. And so, yeah, he used to come on my show for years and be fully dressed and then turn into the horny leprechaun and start dancing around and strip off, and he'd be in green briefs. And he has he's not shy at all about his body, though he should be. He's just terrific. He's a great soul. And there's a bunch of people like that who are just fun to play with. Jack Black, it's really fun to play with them, because in its essence, that's what comedy should be. There's a lot of my job, which is prepare, make sure it goes well, work hard to put the person at ease. But it's really at its best when you're just playing around with somebody, and you're getting a check for it. That's when you just think, I've hit the lottery 1,000 times over. To get one night like that, sometimes you have to put in 7, where you're talking to a young actor, from the WB who's never had any life and has nothing to say, and you've got no names. You know the guy. No, but you talk to some of these young actors who are like 20, 21 years old, and some of them are great, but some of them haven't lived. They haven't had a life yet. And their idea of an anecdote is, instead of a blue Porsche, a red one shows up. And the audience just like that, just folds their arms like, who are you? We hate you. We can't relate to what you're saying, and you need to die. Yeah, but there's a bunch of people like that are just, anyone who's got that sort of playful, fun, anarchic spirit. Yeah?
Hey. I represent a part of society which you turn your back on, and of course talking about beer aficionados. What makes you shake? Was a good look.
Oh, beard. I thought you said beer aficionado. Like, I have not turned my back. That's slander. I I lost the beard eventually because I just felt like it was instinct. I grew it when I was going through the craziness and had it for a while, and then one day it just felt like, you know, it just felt like it had to go. It was all gut instinct. It wasn't anything was wrong with the beard necessarily. I just thought, you know, I look like, whatever. I used to say I looked like a sickly lumberjack, you know. I used to say I looked like Paul Bunyan in need of a bone transplant. It just had this kind of, he's kind of trying to be manly, but I don't know, it just had to come out.
Will it come back?
What's that?
Will it come back?
Yes. Yeah.
Thinking of the horny leprechaun and some of your other more ridiculous characters, preparation is written.
Yeah.
Is there ever a point like in the writing room where you say like, you know, we find this funny, but it might be like too ridiculous to the point that it won't play well with the audience?
Yeah.
And like, do you have any examples of?
You can help out with this, Mike, but there's plenty of times where we think we've gone too far. And the thing that always saves us is it's a volume business. You know, we're like a cafe that serves 700 donuts a day. And so you just keep putting them out, and that's actually what gets you to try things that, if we did one show a year, we wouldn't experiment nearly as much. It's because we're doing so much that we just put stuff up there, and we're like, I don't know. And we don't know that much better than anybody here. We're not experts. We just think, it seems funny to me, I think. I don't know. And sometimes you put it out there and it's brilliant. People love it and say it's brilliant. Other times it falls flat. You just kind of push along. And then you know, you have the next show. So there are plenty of times we have no idea what's going to happen, where we push it too far, it doesn't quite work, we're not happy, and then we just have to keep going. So that happens all the time. I'm trying to think of good examples of stuff that we thought was, I mean, early on, this puppet, I don't know how well it is known over here, but Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, who became a huge thing in the States, and we didn't know. We just had a bit, we had a sketch where different animal puppets were doing, we said it's an animal talent show, and then we had these little stupid plastic puppets juggling plates and doing things like that. And then one of them, Robert Smigel, came in, and he was supposed to be a stand-up comic, and he just said, I think I might make him an insult comic. We said, whatever, we're on in 20 minutes. And then for some reason that no one understands, he gave it an old Russian woman's voice. She was like, yes, yes, you idiots, you know. And then we did it, we thought it was funny, the audience seemed to laugh. Before we knew it, it was this huge thing. And then we sent him to the premiere of the Star Wars movie. This is now like, what, 12 years ago? But it became, this was pre-YouTube, but if it had broken on YouTube, it would have just, people lost their minds because it was this puppet tearing these nerds apart. But it was delightful, and they were in on it, and it had a kind of sweetness to it, so we had no idea that was going to catch on. The great things are all accidents, you don't know. There's no way to know. Yeah?
Well, is there anything you haven't done in your career yet that you really want to try?
I think I'd be a good model. I want to go now. I would like to someday write something something real. I'd like to, someday if I'm not, there are two things I'd like to do, which is someday when I'm not doing the show where I'm in the audience and I have a guest every night, I talk about this sometimes, I'd like to do a show where I go around the world. Maybe I don't make a dime off of it, but with an HD camera I shoot, you know, I come to a place like Trinity and I shoot a remote and we put it up online, and then I go to the next place and just travel around and try my comedy in lots of different international venues, not for big profit or anything, you know, just to do it. And someday I've always been interested in, could I write something, could I write a funny book that isn't just a sort of a, you know, a thing where I get all my writers or something to write a book and we put my name on it, but something where I sit down and I really craft something, you know, and try and make something worthwhile. I've always thought that'd be interesting to try sometime. I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
Well, just it seems to me that what makes a lot of great Simpsons episodes really great is that they have heart as well as comedy.
Yeah.
And do you find that the jokes come first and then you kind of try and put them?
Well, that's all Sam Simon and Matt Groening, the two guys and James L. Brooks, who started the show. When I got there, I was in my 20s, and I fancied myself I'm the fastest gun, and I'm sharp and edgy, and I just wanted to push the boundaries all the time. And I call it it's called slash and burn comedy. You want to just really push the envelope in every single way. And I came from the Harvard Lampoon, which is our comedy magazine, and I came from that place. And when you're young, you just think you want to go out and set the world on fire with new comedic ideas that have never been thought of before. And to hell with people getting along and warmth and love. That's bullshit. I don't care about that. Well, then what happened was I got to The Simpsons, and especially at Saturday Night Live, they foster that. Just, it's hard. It's just, you're pushed to have an edge, and the young writers there sort of have contempt for the older writers, and it's competitive and mean. And I got to The Simpsons, and they said the most important thing is that it's a family. So the jokes have to be funny, but what really makes the show work is that Homer loves Bart. He may want to strangle him, but he doesn't really want him dead. You can't write an episode where Homer is trying to murder Bart and then is frustrated at the end when his son isn't dead. Now that's probably the episode I would have wanted to write when I showed up, and they said you can't do that because it breaks the integrity. And really I think what's the show is, I left the show 20 years ago. It's been 20 years since there were people in here that weren't alive when I left that show. And you're all still watching it, talking about it. To me, that's what's kept that show going, is that there are other kinds of shows that make a quick impression, but then it's over after 2 years. And sometimes I look at comedy and I think it's just mean for the sake of being mean. There's some of it that's just, there's some shows, and I think they're really funny, but I can tell there's a kind of comedy that's popular in America right now. It's more in the half-hour sitcom format, but you see it a lot on cable where the plot is, this week the guys find a baby in an alley and they throw it away, and and you're like, oh my God, you're loving it. But someone gets shot, or they become hired assassins and kill somebody, but they don't make enough money, so they go back to school. And it's funny, but it's so dark that you think you can't sustain this for more than a year or two. So I think that's been a really important part of keeping The Simpsons going. Yeah. What's that? Who's that? Oh, me? it's a sugar thing. I don't mean to do any of that, it's just, like I say, I hear music and I never, standing there and talking to an audience still feels patently absurd to me. So I add to the absurdity of it by moving around a lot and acting like a cat and basically just having a nervous breakdown. Talking the show for 5 minutes. And in America, they hated it, and then they got used to it, and now I have all these people that are like, I like your show! And I'll say, what do you like? The part where you jump around! No thought went into that. There was a guy at the Shelburne, is it the Shelburne Hotel? Yeah. There was an old man last night, my wife and I were there having a drink, and an old man, he was really old, was like, you've got the crazy! He just knows I'm the guy with the hair that's stupid. So I crack through to him in that way. I'm doing whatever I can. Yes?
Is there anything you miss most about your life pre-fame?
No. I said to my wife, no, definitely. There's when I was in London, I don't think my show's there or has ever been there, so I was in London for just a few days walking around, and except for the odd American tourist, it was a nice break to just walk around. And sometimes if you think people are looking at you all the time, I'm used to it, but you get a little self-conscious, and it was a nice break. So I don't think I didn't know anybody alive. I like my life. I wouldn't trade anything about it, but if there was a magical button where no one would know you for a day, that would be nice. You could get away with all kinds of stuff. There's times when I think that would be nice, but I can't. I think the only thing sometimes about our schedule, about our work, is just I can't travel very far. This was my only week off. This was a rare opportunity. There's every now and then there's a little bit of light when I can get away from that desk and go be here with you, and it's a fascinating experience. And I sometimes wish I had a little more control over that. You know, there's a demand when you do a show like this. People that make movies, they make the movie for 3 months and then they're off for 4 and they get drunk and smash hotel rooms and sleep with models and, but you know, that's not, you know, also I wouldn't do those things. Because I don't have time. Yeah.
One of my favorite interviews of yours is when you go with Hunter S. Thompson and shoot guns and drink hard liquor. I'm just wondering, to what extent was that a real interview? Or
Yeah, that was real. Yeah, Hunter S. Thompson said he was willing to do the show and he didn't do those kinds of shows. And then he's famously, he wouldn't show up, I don't want to do it, and he was difficult. And then he finally called up like a dare and said, all right, I'll come if I get to drink and shoot guns with Conan. And so we said, done. And he was sort of stunned, but he showed up. And we arranged, I think it was upstate New York, we got a big field. There was a big field, and we set up a bar, and we got a guns expert, a guy with real big guns, and Hunter S. Thompson showed up, and then loved it. And we shot some guns, we shot projectiles that exploded, we just blew stuff up for an hour while I talked to him, and he had a blast. He really loved it. So sometimes it's just, it was him trying to get out of it, and me saying, fine, that's exactly what we'll do. And it was really fun. Yeah.
Hi. Some celebrities are notorious for exceedingly difficult interviews. How do you deal with that? You know, when you're somebody out there who's not going to be very helpful.
I end up doing most of the talking, and that's why I do think, I know it's a generalization, but I think that there are a lot of people of Irish descent who've taken over television in America, and that's, I think, it's because our ultimate weapon is we can keep talking and talking and talking if we have to. And when you get someone on who's a film star, I was talking about it earlier, and let's say she's 24, 25, and she's a big deal, so you want to have her on the show, and she's on the show, but she's not comfortable in that situation, so she comes out and smiles, but then doesn't say much. I can make fun of myself, do a lot of talking, I think put them at ease, and then the interview's over, and I'll get irritated because my staff will say, hey, she was great. And I'll say, look at the tape. That was me, you know. She's pretty, you're not, you know. And so I think it's that. It's the ability to, I'm an empath. I very much can tell if someone's not comfortable, and I want them to be comfortable, so I'll figure out a way to do that. And there's a wide variety of styles. There are people like David Letterman is brilliant at, if someone's misbehaving or being difficult, he can just zero in a laser on them and take them apart. And it's not a moral choice. If I was good at that, I'd be doing it. It's never been my strength. I'll try and find another way around. I'll try and put them at ease by maybe making myself look silly or stupid, and that's how I work. But it's the hardest part of the job sometimes, is when you get somebody, the audience is a little flat, and it's someone who's not used to talking. It's actually a flaw with these shows, is that there are people that probably shouldn't do them, but this is how they promote their films. So they show up, they sit there, and sometimes they look at you like, do your thing, red-haired clown, you know. It's hard.
Is there anybody in particular who'd be bad?
Could be what?
That even when you try counting them, you just won't give anything.
Yes, there are people like that. The problem is we live in a YouTube world, so if I say their name, so I could tell you privately, I could write it down on a piece of paper, but there are people like that. I never, it's not good to answer that question and be completely honest, because then, first of all, the biggest reason is that it ends up hurting their feelings. Everybody finds out. Whenever I've said anything slightly disparaging about somebody, even the ones that deserve it, it's 3 days later. So we're all here at Trinity College in this wonderful room in Dublin, and I could say something about somebody, and Paula Davis is going to call me and say, their publicist called. Because someone's going to tweet it. You know what I mean? It just happens. So,
Write it down. Write it down.
Oh yeah, you just want that paper. What I'd like to do is pick someone who's fantastic, but say they're difficult, and then get that going. You know, just like, so just get something horrible. But yeah, it's an area which is tricky. But there's some horrible, horrible people. And you're a fan of some of them. Anyone else?
Up here. Up here.
Oh! Hi.
Hi. So I have a question. Looking back.
How'd you get that seat? That's important.
I said hi to you outside, and you just shook my hand. I said I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
What do you want for Cleveland? You know? Cleveland.
We have to go somewhere from the thing. So, anyways, looking back on like choices you've made, was there anything that you did maybe at the time you didn't put much thought into it, or like people said you shouldn't do that, but then now kind of looking back, you're like, wow, that really changed everything. Is there any big decision you made that you kind of?
Oh, the biggest thing for me was when I went to do the late night show. I was just a writer, and it's a crazy story, but in a nutshell, one of the biggest television presenter jobs in the world suddenly came open, and all these comics were going up for it. And I was a writer at The Simpsons who didn't really have any TV experience, and kind of on a lark, I just went to this audition and did this audition. And because I had no chance, I was really good because there was no pressure. And I just went, oh, okay, well, and I did, and everybody thought it was great. And then I got the job and wet myself for 3 years straight, you know. But I, deep down, felt like that was something that I should be doing, but I had to get over the hurdle of, actually, without joking around, about 1.5 years of solid negative feedback in America. Just, I don't know why, Canadians were like, we love it. I still don't know why, but they kept me going. But literally in America, it was like, who are you? I remembered reading reviews where they say, you know, pretty much say, why can't he die? You know, I could read that. And my mother would send it to me. And she still, my mom will occasionally, everything's been going great for so long, but my mother will still call me up and go, well, I'll tell her some great thing. Oh, I'm going to Trinity College. They're going to give me this great honor. And so that's great, but I can't believe that guy in 1993 called you a worthless idiot. I said, Mom, what'd you bring that up for? Well, I'm mad at him still. I'll read you what he said, you know. It's just classic. But I was glad I took a chance, and that's my big message to young people is you have less to lose than you think you do. You just, you know, people can, all they can do at the end of the day is say things, but if you want to do it more than they don't want you to be doing it, you'll win out. Yeah?
Yeah, hi, I'm from Bavaria, and I wanted to ask
You're from Bavaria?
Yeah, I am. I wanted to ask you if maybe you can do a little more PR in Germany, because if your show is on at all, it's on this really shitty channel.
Yeah, I think it's always been a problem to crack. I mean, I don't know, was I on NBC? Was I on in Germany? I don't know if I was.
It was a really shitty channel.
What's that?
It was 4 o'clock in the night, so...
4 o'clock in the night?
Yeah, it's always...
That's a decent time of day in America. That's how I choose the times. 4 in the afternoon, I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. A lot of it is your distributor, if getting a good distributor, and TBS with Warner Brothers, we haven't had really distributors, so we've been doing really well in America, but we've got to start figuring out how to get out there in the rest of the world. And it's tricky, you know, you got to be packaged with another show, and there's a lot of bureaucracy to it. So until then, I have the internet. That's actually the saving grace. I have more people. I mean, a bunch of kids stopped me the other day, yesterday, when I was walking around Dublin, and they just said that they've seen a lot of different. I said, "How do you even know me?" And they said, "Oh, we've seen a lot of stuff on the internet." So they were talking about pornography, but I was just. They enjoyed it. They showed it to me. Yes.
All right. So, do you use product for your hair?
I like the stance that my. I thought it was going to be challenging here, but not like that. This is a homemade mixture. This is mayonnaise, bathroom spackling compound, turpentine, egg whites, baked in a kiln for 6 hours, whipped up. Occasionally I will, yeah. It depends. The greatest thing is the moisture in the air. My hair is more powerful here in Dublin than Los Angeles. Los Angeles, the minute I showed up there, I was like, here's where I'm going to do my new show. And then you come to Dublin and it's hair Viagra. It's yes?
If you could interview anyone, whether like fictional or dead or like
fictional? It has to be fictional?
no, they can be fictional or they can be dead or they can be alive.
Oh, Abe Lincoln. I want to talk to Abe Lincoln. You know, I've always been fascinated by him. I've always felt a special kinship with him, of the exact same height, the presidential bearing. I had a beard, difficulty with women, prone to depression. Yeah, I would say Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, you. Hold on, did I not get you yet? Did I get you? Hold on, let's get this guy, because he hasn't said anything yet, he's bringing it fast. Yes?
You mentioned in the past that the best thing that came from late night Conan O'Brien was the time we visited a group who reenacted both baseball games.
Yeah. It's on, you can see it. It was one of my favorite things that I ever did, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. But I went and visited these people that took it very seriously, and they played baseball as it was played in the 1870s in the United States. And they have the crazy whiskers and the mustaches, and they played with the old rules and the old equipment. And I went and just, as you would say, to take the piss out of them. And one guy was getting really mad at me, and I just kept screwing around, and it just became this. It was just perfect. I've always said, whenever I go, show it at my funeral. That's all I have to say. It's just such a silly. And at one point, the guy's really trying hard to stay in character, and just then a jet flew overhead. And I was like, what devilry! We actually saw, my wife and I, who's back there, Eliza, we went to the Globe Theatre in London, and it's the same thing. They work so hard. You read in the book, an Elizabethan ash has been used to make Shakespeare's theater. It's exactly the same dimensions. That's really horrible. No. There's a thatched roof, there's this, there's that, and then everyone's in period costume, and they've done it all exactly, and right in one of the big speeches at 12th night, big jets start flying overhead. You think, there's something beautiful about that. I just enjoyed it. I
was just wondering, is there anyone who you've, worked with recently or interviewed, or who you've just been watching, that you think we should invite here? Like, who you
I think I'm it, really. Kind of over now. So shutter it up. Close the school down. There's so many great comics out there. One of them who's a huge hit, probably here too, but everywhere, who started out as a writer with us is Louis C.K. He's just taken off, and he started as a writer on the show back in 1993. He had never worked in television before, and he's been for years hadn't quite found his niche, and then he has this show Louis now on FX, and it's just, he's the hottest comedian in America, and I think probably everywhere. So he's worth looking into.
Just have time for one more question.
One more, but who will it be? Okay. What's that?
What's your favorite Simpsons episode?
How about one more after that? I can't pick one of mine. I guess I know the early ones the best, and I liked Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington a lot, where Lisa Goes to Washington. One more? Yes?
Of all the people who you've interviewed across your career, who would you say left the greatest impression you found inspiring in just that short amount of time you spent with them?
That's hard. Who was the most out of... Those are hard to do, because it's like saying, what was your favorite sandwich? And then you think, I've had 65,000 sandwiches. I've been doing it for 20 years, probably 180 shows a year. Someone do the math, but I think that's over 10 billion. Not really a math school. It gets hard to say that there was one. There's been different people over the years, but it's hard for me just to say one. It's too many people there, and some of them are great in different ways. Let's do one more. What do you say? Huh? Yes.
Okay, great question.
You guys sort this out. This will all be taken care of on the rugby field. What? Yes? Oh, I hate jokes. I'm terrible at remembering. I am. I can't remember them. I can't. We think of new ones every day, but I just am terrible at like, okay, three, a rabbi and a pirate and an astronaut go into a bar, and now you're all listening, and I'm. We like it so far. I can't remember them. Yes, anyone over here? Yes, you.
You appear in Futurama, I suppose, as a talking head in the year 2000 doing comedy. Is that the dream, or do you see
Is to what? To be on Futurama or to be a talking head in
so
jar?
do you see your career going on for as long as you want to, or do you want to, is there a point where you're like, no, I want to finish after that?
I think we all just keep going till we feel we can't. And for me, that was 3 weeks ago. Yes?
Did you bring a guitar? Are you going to play some music?
No, I didn't bring a guitar. They don't travel too well, no.
I have one there. Will you play this song?
I think as a guitarist, I'm a good comedian. That's how I work. I've always been wary of that because it's a hobby of mine, and we use it if it's comedically appropriate for the show, and I use it on the tour. And then I've noticed that if ever I just break it out and go, listen to this, people are like, it's like when Bruce Willis starts to play the harmonica, Okay, now I got to answer that call. Yes?
If you could define your career in television in one word, what that would be?
Unexpected. Really, it's been I couldn't have planned any of this. So I would just say it's been completely unexpected. I didn't know that I could do this. I didn't. Every turn of the road has been kind of improbable, and it's amazing. Now I'm here with you guys. To me, that's the biggest miracle, is that I couldn't have figured out a way to get here and talk to you and have any of you know who I was or really care what I'm about. And to think that all happened and I'm here right now is the absolute. It's mind-bending to me. There's something about that is just hard to imagine. So I'd say unexpected.
Yes, probably a nice one to end on. So I guess on behalf of the society, obviously, I'd like to a warm thanks to Conan, to Liza, and to Mike for travelling over on his only week off to accept the award.
Ever, my only week off.
I think the honour is really all ours. It's immensely proud to have you as our newest honour granting in society. And we have planned out to go to the Book of Kells, if you'd like. I think we're also going to escort you out. But we have one last warm round of applause for our...
Hey, thank you!